Hey all, what's going on everybody? Jordan Connect here with another episode of Embrace the Chase, where as always we are interviewing over 100 entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers over the next year that are successful to pick their brains, kind of get some wisdom and advice from them and apply it to our own lives. And I'm really excited because today's episode 54 and we have Andrew Perrie here today, who's all the way up from, let me make sure I'm saying this right, Ontario, Canada, correct?
Yes, sir. You got it, Jordan.
There we go. There we go. And he is the founder of Create Your Own Success Company, which specializes consulting and obviously marketing with realtors. So we're really excited to have him on today and kind of dive a little bit deeper. But is there anything else you'd like to add to that, Andrew?
You know what? You summed it up pretty good. And if I had met you 12 months ago and you told me that that was my mission statement, it would have saved me a lot of time and effort, my friend.
I love it. I love it. Well, since you mentioned from 12 months ago, can you kind of start us from the beginning? What got you interested in entrepreneurship? What led you to start Create Your Own Success Company and then obviously transition into becoming a realtor?
You know what, Jordan? So it was actually longer than 12 months. I think we started this journey around 24 months ago. And I'm sure I work for a company, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, LA Fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a few gyms up here. And you know what an amazing company to work for. And it was kind of like a mentor experience for me. They taught me everything that I needed to know and gave me the systems that pushed me into entrepreneurialism. And so about 24 months ago is when I kind of decided to leave that corporate atmosphere. And I felt like I was ready to just start embracing the chase, if you will, name plug there, and just kind of start doing things on my own, man. And ever since then, I haven't turned back.
I love it. I love it. So then were you always interested in real estate, or is that a passion that just kind of came along the way?
I'll be completely honest with you. It was a passion that kind of just developed. And I'll tell you that I'm not going to lie to you. I started getting into the industry for some of the wrong reasons, but also some of the right reasons. So it was mostly, I'm not going to lie to you, because of the money. And how quickly did my views change of real estate when I got in? And I noticed that, you know what, there's a lot of great money to be made here, but it's not the way that I envisioned. There's actually some really hard work that goes into making money in this business. And that's something that, I had to learn over time, but I'm very excited that I am where I am today.
I love it. I love it. So you were telling me before we went live that the Create Your Own Success Company was started while you were still going to school to get your license. So can you kind of talk about the evolution of how you started a consulting business and how you ended up landing on your specific niche?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, you know what, in the working for the American company, LA Fitness, it was a giant, one of the top in sales. I felt like I had, greatness inside me, and I wanted to kind of help other salespeople develop their skills. So Create Your Own Success started out as like looking back now, looking at some of those videos, it was hilarious, man. It was almost like a Grant Cardone style of sales and sales training, like in your face. It really wasn't me. And so I had to kind of step back and kind of assess what I was doing, because I just quit a six-figure comfy position, right? And I had to, look at my career choice. What was I doing? And then it developed from there into more of a, web design and all around one-stop shop. We still offer those services, but we're not heavily focused into that anymore. But and then it grew from not only developing your brand, but teaching you and coaching you how to run that brand effectively. So you don't necessarily have to hire guys like me or companies like mine on a consistent basis. One of the most important things, when you're starting out as a small business is how can we start recuperating some of our costs that we've just invested? And the last thing you want to think about is, okay, how can I design my own logo? How much is that going to cost? Where am I going to get my headshots? And if I get a headshot, am I only going to be using that background as my ad? Like how can I build my portfolio so that I can reach more people? And the last thing that anybody needs to know is where to find that information. I think that if I could just teach you once and you can get the ball rolling and create your own success, that's kind of what our mission statement is and where we want to go with it.
I love it. So you specifically work with realtors, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So I have a lot of friends who've recently become realtors. So I have at least a basic understanding of how difficult it is in the beginning. But once you have those relationships set, it can be very fruitful long term. So I guess a question I'd have for you is, as you're working with younger realtors, obviously with your consulting company, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make?
Oh man, the biggest one that I see on a consistent basis is that, and it kind of goes against what I teach at the same time. It's weird. It's don't listen to other people, especially in this industry. There's people that do well. There's people that have been in the business a very long time. And, there's also people that kind of want to either see you fail or might not have your best intentions at heart. So what I would say is don't listen to everybody, because everybody's got a way of doing business. And, I'll see these young realtors get attached to the hip with some of the old guys or girls or, some of the top producers, and they get taught how they do things and not necessarily the new realtor. So number one mistake I see is just they go all in. And Warren Buffett says, never test the waters with both feet. And, you see it with realtors all the time. And that's kind of the one thing. You got to take what you can from each individual, but you got to develop your own strategy in the way you do things.
I love it. I love it. So then I'm going to kind of go off topic now and kind of talk about mentorship, which isn't really off topic, but there's a lot of really big names in real estate. So your Robert Kiyosaki's, your Donald Trump's, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have anybody who's a direct mentor of yours that you can talk about, or anybody that's an indirect mentor, like books?
Well, Gary Keller, for sure. You know what? But here's the biggest thing is that I don't tend to take my coaching or my mentoring from real estate agents. I know it sounds crazy, but you know what? Real estate, I might get a lot of flack on this from some of my colleagues, but real estate is a business, and it's the same structure and foundation and systems as other businesses. It's just the products are a little different. Sure, there's different keys as far as like learning and growing and the way you interact with people. But I would say my mentor is one of my good friends who just got into real estate, but he actually worked at LA Fitness. His name's Scott Holliday. He works out in Edmonton, Ontario. And he's just one of those guys that taught me not only sales systems, but how to connect with people. So I'm not saying that you need somebody on such a high level like Gary Keller, but I read his book and I absolutely loved it. But sometimes you just need to connect with somebody a little bit who's outside of your zone, who can see things on a day-to-day level, as opposed to some giant like Tony Robbins or Robert Kiyosaki or Gary Keller, if that makes any sense.
No, it actually makes perfect sense. I was listening to Jordan Belfort's audiobook earlier, and I forget which book it was, but he actually does mention in that, he says every sale is the exact same no matter the industry. So absolutely. I think you're spot on with that. I really like that. But let's kind of talk about 2018, the current projects that you're doing right now. So for starters, let's hit on the nail. How can people work with you that are watching this podcast, or can they even?
Man, absolutely. I do work internationally. I got investors coming from all over the world. I work in a pretty niche market, Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, where we have a lot of, it's a tourism town, but it's an elegant, sophisticated, it's a totally unique experience. We're the wine capital of Canada. It's 5-star restaurants, some of the best wineries in the wine, obviously, because of the temperatures. The wine is so delicious. And I think I messaged you before. If you have an opportunity, drink some Cab Merlot from 2012, 2013. So we work with people internationally. So no matter where you're listening to this, if you ever have any interest in coming into Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, let me know. But that's a good question. And the way that 2018 has kind of been developing for me so far is that I've really stepped up my game into utilizing video marketing, but from different principles or different methods or vehicles, I guess you could say. I was really strong in listing videos, high production videos last year. And this year I'm stepping up the high quality videos, but also mixing it with some raw selfie videos and live videos. And I think that's attracting people from all over the world. And like I said, I am now working with tons of investors and tons of people that just want to share in the experience in Niagara-on-the-Lake.
So I do have a separate question. I have a friend who's a real estate investor, and he's kind of anti-realtor, and I've worked with a lot of people who are realtors that are anti-investors. Do you do both? And if you do both, do you have a certain one that you favor?
It's a good question because, I don't like to talk about deals that aren't firm, of course, or I think in the States they call it under contract. But I just accepted an offer on one of my vacation properties that, it's a cottage, right? And what we want to do is try to book out as many days as possible throughout the whole year so we can use that income as passive income. And you know what? I kind of found that experience to be fun, but it's also a little stressful. But at the same time, being a real estate agent can be fun and stressful. So I think a balance of the two. I don't think I could choose one just because I don't know as much as I want to know about the real estate investing side of it. So we've started off with the cottage. We've started off, I did start as a real estate investment team with a couple of clients of mine where we would work our commission into some equity in the deal. So it's just a fun process, man. I don't think I could pick one or the other.
I like it. Have you had much work with hard money lenders?
No, I've had one guy that we're working on right now. I can't talk about it a lot, but yeah, it's all cash, baby.
I like it. Well, then let's just kind of chat. We'll pivot a little bit and just talk about general advice. So obviously you went through different ups and downs, trying to figure out which niche you wanted to land on. You became a realtor, but what advice would you give for somebody who's just now having that epiphany that you had when you were at LA Fitness of, I think entrepreneurship is something I want to do long-term?
Well, here's the problem. And I know this sounds like motivational rah-rah, but the problem is that we are not getting any younger. Time is not on our side as far as, waiting passively or until something becomes comfortable. Because I'll tell you what, nothing's ever going to be comfortable when it, comes down to making a decision like this. It's not easy. When I quit my corporate job, I had a son, he was 2 months old. 2 months old when I decided to make that decision. Not to mention that we had just packed up our family from Ontario and moved 4 provinces away, which is a 5-hour flight. And we just got there, man. We just got there. And it took a lot of money to, invest into leaving the town, setting up shop, and then more money to leave the town and not knowing what we were leaving to go home to. Was there money coming in? We didn't know. The only thing that we did know is that I had the drive and, my wife supported me so much, but I had the drive and the determination just to make sure that, I doubled down on my efforts to make sure that I got what I needed to do in order to become successful. And if I had to say anything, man, it's just do it. Just like Nike says, man, like 2 words, just do it. 3 words.
I love it. And you've also dabbled with public speaking, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I did, 4 shows last year. And then we did one yesterday. And then, my major big break, I guess, was here in Niagara Falls last year as well. Still not on the circuits that I want to be on yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to improve that in 2018.
So how did you get into public speaking?
Well, as my wife and some of my friends would say, I just like to hear myself talk.
Sounds like my wife.
You know what, man? It's like when you come to that realization that there is more to life than sitting back, collecting a paycheck and clocking out. I talk about this a lot where it does take a long time to realize that. But once you do, it's so, it's like a weight is lifted off your shoulders. Now that I work for myself, and you know what, I'm not saying that it was very difficult, but it wasn't that easy. It was pretty easy to do. You just have to go and do it. And if I can help people just feel happy, just for one day by realizing that they have the power to do and change their own life. And that's kind of why I want to get on stage and let people know.
I love it. So you do business a lot, or mostly in Canada, excuse me. Have you done any business in the United States yet?
No, no, absolutely. I haven't yet, but
That
always
I love
open.
it. Is that something you're interested in doing?
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. I got a good friend of mine who lives in California, owns his own brokerage. He's always inviting me down to come talk and teach seminars and things like that. And I think that'd be a great experience. I've always wanted to go to Cali and never have. So
I love it. So we're going to have a massive event here in Cincinnati. So I have a counterpart who has his own personal brand, and we're going to put together a conference in July called Next Wave Entrepreneurs, which is probably going to have about maybe 400 people. So if things work out, not to put you on the spot since we're live right now, but if things work out and it makes sense on both ends, would love to have you come down and kind of talk about the whole real estate niche and kind of talk about all the tips and tricks that you have if you'd be open to it.
oh man, absolutely. I would love it. I would absolutely love it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and ask you the last question that I have everybody on the
Sure,
show kind of answer. And if you want to take this as long as you want, as short as you want, go on a tangent, it does not matter to me. But what's something that's on your heart or on your mind right now that you really want people to know about? And this can be about you, somebody else, or a specific cause.
well, you know what? So recently I've been kind of figuring out a way of how can we change the real estate industry from a realtor to realtor perspective. And the thing is that we're all in this together. There should be no competition. So I've kind of started these small initiatives into one of my favorite groups on Facebook. It's called Real Estate Hacks, and it's a whole bunch of realtors that they get together, they show support for one another, and they learn from each other and grow. And I'm starting these small initiatives where we bring people together by teaching them what we know. So for example, I offered everybody a free Facebook ad. So what I did is I got everybody to send me their headshot, send me their brokerage logo, and I cut it all up and put it all into a nice little package for them so they could use that for a promotional tool. I got an overwhelming response, and I had to do 100, 150, 200 headshots. So eventually I had to say, okay, why don't I just cut you out of your headshot, and what I'll do is I'll teach everybody how to use that little headshot and put it into their own marketing. So it's just these small initiatives where, I don't know, call it the Gary Vee approach, where you want to offer as much value as you can with genuine intent to help people. Good karma, referrals, whatever, that's all icing on the cake. It's all about helping people understand that they're not in this alone. They don't have to compete with each other. Light is stronger than darkness. And if we can just pool all our thoughts together, we can all grow as a community. And I think that's what the real estate industry was lacking for so long. It was dog eat dog. And now you're seeing people connecting all around the world. They're sending, business all around the world. They're growing and learning, so they don't have to spend $800, $1,000 a month just working with, a top real estate coach. They have each other. And you know what? If I had to really push something in 2018, it would just be more of that, man, more support for everybody.
I love that. I mean, because there's enough business to go around.
Oh man, absolutely. And one day I'm going to be across the table from one of the people that I've helped out, and that's just going to make the deal go so much smoother. It could be a lot of stress when you're dealing with realtors who don't agree with you, which is not going to be every realtor, but and as well as they may not have a connection with you, and that deal is not going to go as smooth as you would hope or want it to.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you actually brought up Gary Vee, because he says a lot that if you feel confident and passionate about what you do and you're the best at what you do, then it doesn't matter if you give away all your secrets and just help everybody, because you'll still be successful. So I love it. I love it. Any last thoughts before I wrap the show up?
No, you know what, man? I feel like I've had a great time chatting with you. I really appreciate the connection and everything like that, man. I really appreciate the platform.
Of course, Andrew, thanks so much for being on. Again, I'll get all the details over to you about that event. If it makes sense, would be awesome to have you down in Cincinnati. But guys, all the links are down below. Please go check Andrew out. Reach out to him. Show him some love. If you do want to work with him, don't be shy. Who you see is who he really is. As always, I will tell you guys the truth when I'm off camera with people, if they're not real or not. Andrew's the real deal. Andrew, thanks so much for being on. I appreciate it.
Jordan, man. Take care.
Of course. We'll see you guys next time.
We'll see ya.